So hello, everyone, and welcome to the September 2nd special council meeting for the Village of Lytton. I'd like to take a moment to remind everyone to please turn off your videos, mute your microphones, and allow council to begin the proceedings. Just to let you know, we are actually being recorded on Zoom today. We're not live streaming. So thank you, Your Worship. You may call the meeting to order.
Thank you. I call this special council meeting to order at 9 a.m. We want to acknowledge that we are meeting here today on the territory of the Entrecap people. I require a motion to adopt today's agenda. Lightfoot, thank you. Seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor McCann. All those in favor? Carried. And we now need a motion to move into committee of the whole. Councillor Lightfoot, seconder.
Okay.
Councillor McCann. All those in favor? Carried. All right, so we will do that now. We are moving into committee of the whole. I'm sorry, my computer went to sleep here. So I call this committee of the whole meeting at 9:01. Look at that, 1 minute. So I'm going to turn it over to Corporate Officer Storoshenko for item number. Oh, sorry, no, we need a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll move that.
Committee of the whole. Thank you, Councillor McCann. Seconder, Councillor Toss. All those in favor? Carried. And I'm going to turn it over to Corporate Officer Storoshenko for item number 3, which is public comment on this agenda.
Thank you, Worship. So members of the public are now invited to comment on matters related to the agenda. So if you would like to speak, please use the raise hand function on Zoom. You can find that by clicking on react at the bottom of your screen and then click raise hand. When it's your turn, I'll read your name. You'll be asked to unmute yourself. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. Speakers are asked to please state and spell your name, say your address, and the agenda item number you're speaking to. So if anyone would like to speak, please use the raise hand function now. I'll call for a second time. So if anyone would like to speak, please use the raise hand function now. And seeing no one online, Your Worship, is there anyone at Parish Hall?
Yeah, there's no public here today.
All right, thank you. That completes the public comment portion of the meeting. So back to you, Your Worship.
Okay, so we will begin this committee of the whole meeting. And just a reminder to everyone here that the committee of the whole is when council meets together. It is less formal than a regular meeting. Although when we're speaking, we're going to be taking turns and I'm going to be calling on people. So if you have something to say, raise hand, we'll still have that so that we are staying organized and and making sure that we're doing it appropriately. So next, the next item on the agenda, I'm not used to using my laptop for this. We have staff reports and presentations. So we have 2 items that are on today's committee of the whole meeting. And the first one is regarding municipal signage. And I believe we have a presentation.
Yes, I just wanted to give a couple of comments, and then Melissa has prepared a presentation that she's going to go through with council. We started looking at the signage for now that we've got a building that's ready to open. This kind of now come up. We're going to have a number of buildings, and we have a number of parks that we all know the names of and can identify, but we don't necessarily have them identified. So we're going to need to make some decisions about this in the future, and this is just a little bit of information for council to be thinking about as we're bringing these new things online. I don't think it's critical that the Public Works building has a name put on it today, because it's primarily an internal facility, but we will want to make some decisions about this in the future. So Melissa, if you wanted to kind of start and go through your presentation.
Great. Thank you. Good morning, Mayor and Council. Lisa's going to drive the presentation, so I'll just wait for her to load it up here. Excellent. So as Diane mentioned, today we're going to discuss signage for municipal facilities and parks. Next slide. The purpose of this is to look at needs, guidelines, considerations, possible approaches for the signage, and then at the end to consider potentially a recommendation from the committee of the whole to staff. Next slide. As Diane mentioned, we've got some new municipal buildings, Public Works building now completed, Village Office in the works, Community Hub being planned, and the Fire Hall being planned. Those buildings will need signage, as well as municipal parks such as Pocket Park and O'Dwyer Park. I just wanted to note that wayfinding and informational signs that are included in a Ministry of Forest grant are not in scope for this discussion today. That'll come later. Next slide. So what are we talking about? Fascia signage, this is the architectural rendering of the Village Office. You can see on the side, there's a signage for Lytton Village Office flush with the building. You can't see at the front of the building just because of the contrast of the materials that they've used here, but it also says Lytton Village Office. So that is fascia signage, it's signage on the buildings. Next slide. These are examples as well with the new Public Works building where you could potentially have signage at the front of the building or the side of the building. If it's on the building, again, it's called fascia signage. Next slide. This would be also signage, potentially freestanding signage to identify parks like Pocket Park. Next slide. And this is an example just from Central Saanich Municipality of signs that fit together with some similar look and feel. One is a fascia sign for a building, and the other one is a freestanding sign for a park. Next slide. These are examples from other municipalities of just some of the variety of fascia signage. You can have different materials, different lettering types, different types of illumination, different textures, different branding related to the building. Next slide. And currently the Village of Lytton does have a signage bylaw from 2009. It's not specific to a lot of municipal signage guidelines or commercial signs. It does define individuals in the bylaw and the term sign. It excludes signage and markers for gravestones and historical or memorial purposes. It requires permission from the village to place signs on municipal land or buildings, and to include contact information for someone placing a sign on municipal buildings or land. And it requires people to remove election signs 2 days after voting day. It also allows the village to appoint bylaw enforcement officers. So it doesn't have a lot of design details in it, which some municipal bylaws have. Next slide. Director of Development, Carolyn Lamont, pulled together some signage guidelines for other municipalities, just as an example. So the Village of Pemberton has guidelines for municipal signs, which are treated just like public signs. The permitted types are projecting, fascia, or freestanding. I'll show you in the next pictures how these look different. Within that, you could have 2 signs per business frontage, and those need to be less than 10% of the facade area, so the side of the building. For fascia signs, again, which are directly on the building, there's guidelines for how much they can project out from the building. There's a minimum clearance, obviously, so you're not hitting your head for those signs that stick out, or so you're not hitting things in the doorway. And there's a maximum area generally for those signs of 2 meters squared. So the guidelines generally want to have, you don't want your entire building covered. They are an identifying sign. Next slide, Lisa. This is an example of a projecting sign, again, in the Village of Pemberton's guidelines. There's a 2.4 meter minimum above ground. They need to be mounted in the middle third of the frontage, and there's a maximum area for the sign, which is a bit smaller than a fascia sign. And again, freestanding signs on corner lots, they could have signs on both frontages with a sign at each entrance, not to exceed the normal maximum area, which would be 2 meters squared, just like a fascia sign, except on a highway frontage, in which case a highway permit is required. In a village like Pemberton or most larger communities, these types of signs are not allowable in residential areas, but given that the village is so small, that wouldn't really be a consideration. It's mixed use in the village for housing and commercial areas. Next slide, please. And Carolyn has mentioned that within the official community plan update, there is the potential of the village considering signage bylaw updates within the development permit areas for form and character. This is something that can be considered down the road, but doesn't need to be looked at right now, just for the purpose of the signs on the buildings and parks. Next slide. So some of the considerations currently, which we can discuss actually during this meeting, are the content. So what do we want the signs to say? Is it Village of Lytton Public Works Building or Lytton Public Works Building? Is it an opportunity to include the address of the building? So that takes care of that identification of people trying to locate the building at the same time. Do we want to have like the Nlaka'pamux translation, just like the former or some of the current street signs? And again, within the design, what sort of typography does the council prefer? Are there any graphic elements? Are there any colors or shapes? And then what sort of materials, lettering, or illumination does the council prefer? And and just sort of moving ahead, there are a couple of approaches right now, given that one of the buildings has been completed and there are a couple of buildings in progress with architects. One would be to contract a sign designer now to get some design directions so that we could start developing the signs, for example, for the Public Works Building, Pocket Park, O'Dwyer Park. The other is to hold back a little bit and follow the lead of the Village Office and Community Hub architects for fascia signage. It's usually part of the building design to make recommendations on how the building would be signed. So it's got a similar look and feel, recommendations on materials that are complementary to the building that's being created. And right now, actually, we can just open it up for questions. We don't need to move forward, but at the end of the discussion, we could consider a recommendation from the committee of the whole to look at potential options. But perhaps I can just turn it over to you, Mayor and Council, now for any comments, questions, initial thoughts, concerns.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so we've had that presentation, so we will head up for comment, question.
Yeah, so I
Councilor
just,
Cox?
out of the gate, there is a Robert's Rule of Provision clarification. I was a point of order. So if you don't understand exactly what's being debated, it's not a question per se about signage or something. It's a question about the nature of the debate that we're
Yeah,
holding.
so we're not debating here today
No,
at all.
but there
This
is a
conversation.
provision within Robert's
Okay.
Rule and parliamentary procedure in which someone can ask about discussion, not a question. It wasn't in the
Okay,
future.
but-
That is a
so
thing.
now's
Point
your
of privilege-
opportunity to ask.
Sure,
your
and point
question.
of privilege is when you know, it's too hot, too cold, or you know, there's something that I can't hear it. It's audio, and then point of privilege is there's a problem. So anyway, so moving on, I
Back
would
to
invite somebody else. That was my comment, but I see if somebody else covers them first.
Okay, so thoughts, comments, questions from our here, Council McCann.
I had a couple. I like the inclusiveness of where we're looking so far. I don't look forward to picking colors. If I have to, I will. One of the things that popped up when I was floating through was the inclusion of the flag park as another place that maybe would be under consideration, and the cemetery. I'm not sure, but I don't remember any. If there is a sign at the cemetery, I'm pretty sure it needs to be replaced because I'm. So that's a couple of places that I think we could have attention.
Sorry, what was the other one? You said
The cemetery and flag park.
like,
Yes. So, yeah, I think that in my opinion, any building on a street would want the street address on it, like the number. But not doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, just for,
So just comments.
yeah.
Why don't we kind of go around? Melissa, Councilor Michelle, do you? Because you're in our circle here, the head of the circle. Do you have any thoughts or?
My only thoughts on it are the freestanding signs. I wouldn't recommend allowing those in town on corner lots. It's too hard to see the streets when people are pulling out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that too.
Otherwise, I'll decide when we have to. like Councillor McCann, I'm not looking forward to picking stuff like that.
Thank you. Oh,
Can I just add one thing before?
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think, when it comes to actually making the decisions, you look at a lot of the examples, and a lot of the signs are pretty standard, right?
Yeah.
A normal type, and similar to what has been included on our architecture drawing. So unless we decide to go in a direction with something very fancy, different, it probably won't be that challenging. To make the decision when the time comes, because we'll probably follow this.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Councillor Thomas.
so actually the question, the point of clarification I was looking for was just to make sure I understood that this discussion is just around municipal, not private. Okay, that was my question that I wanted to interrupt with.
Okay.
So just because we were getting into sort of kind of discussions, which totally changes it for me. I'm glad you brought up cemeteries. That was one that was on my radar with Pioneer Cemetery as well.
Yeah.
Pioneer Cemetery is a little bit tricky because it's been misnamed. I think over time there's been some criticism that it's not pioneers in there. There's Chinese colonists, I guess, and as well as this population in there. I think there's an ex-chief as well. So Pioneer Cemetery is tricky, but it also needs signage. There is a sign that people that have visited me commented about at the bottom of Loring Way that looks like it was written, and I realized that's a street sign, but I'm putting things and it's like neat and wrote Loring Way there. And then I would definitely like on the stop signs as per what I see around Tsawwassen First Nation and other unceded territories where under the stop, because the stop sign itself is very recognizable and it's not going to confuse anybody to have it in Covington. So I put under stop sign, the word stop, or in exchange of the word stop, we should have the Covington stop, which is also not controversial. It's not something we're going to have to go. There's one bit. Municipal buildings and parks. I'm not so concerned about, because I think what we're talking about is form and character, not. So once we get like, it's not. Higher discussion, right? That's and I also wanted to mention that the OCP process should also bring out a lot of the form and character of branding as word. So I'm reluctant to invest too much in a decision before we actually process. For the sake of argument, let's say we go back to Gold Rush. For the sake of argument, I don't foresee that happening, but then we might be looking at a more Gold Rush themed signage, right? Not that that's, but as for also in character, I'm more concerned about the location and the number of signs being in the appropriate places than I am necessarily what they look like right now. Like we talked about the sign on the Public Works building, I was trying to find it with a friend on the weekend, and getting into that road is tricky. So the sign on the building, albeit important, there's also the sign at the end of the road where the entrance is. That would be important. And with our new bathrooms there and our beautiful structure, it'd be nice to get on the highway to say, hey, it has somewhere where you can stop and have a sandwich now. I don't know if it's a term sign or just to get that interest going. Hey, we have somewhere to. Too bad we didn't get that into the media when we were opening the Public Works building. We should have been mentioning that. I thought of that after. So the Ministry of Forest Grants is doing sort of the interpretive stuff. Was that what I gathered from that?
Yeah, it's the economic development grant that includes the visitor center, wayfinding, downtown signage.
So anything that would be like there used to be a
Yeah.
XYZ here.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
that funding is intended for.
I think we should look at solar lighting around signs that are possible for power outages and backup. I do know, like, I think I mentioned this age that Jimmy Pattison, when he asked if he lost all his money, how he started, he said signage. I don't know if that is an economic potential for us now that we own property on the way there. There's huge revenue off of that, whether it's that means or whatever it is, in Kamloops through Canyon, people pay big money. So I don't know if that's something part of this, but it is something to maybe consider. And then I would be in favor of putting a motion forward immediately at the meeting, where we could, where every time that we mention the Village of Lytton, whether it be in, and this is a stopgap measure, but while we're working on our branding and all our signage, just when we have Village of Lytton, right, with it under, you know, in our signatures we do, but in anything that goes publicly underneath it, in what, it doesn't matter what font, in Klamath territory. That's it. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Councillor Lightfoot.
Well, it would be hard to make a decision at this point, but I do have some preferences. Personally, I think I like the projecting signage for businesses, and say on 4th Street, you're driving down the street, if there was a projecting sign over the village.
I'm just going to stop you for a second. I apologize. Are you having difficulty hearing us?
It's cutting in and out.
Yeah, it's not, yeah.
Is the machine behind your thing?
No, because mine isn't connected to that at all. I'm just wondering if it's the Wi-Fi. We'll try to speak louder, clearer. Yeah, sorry about that.
That's
Thank you.
okay. I just find projecting signage for businesses and easy for me to spot. And so I'm thinking if someone's just driving through town, they don't know the town, especially on 4th Street where the village office entrance is. I think a projecting sign and maybe the fascia sign also would be appropriate. I like it. The freestanding, I agree with Melissa. I wouldn't want to see any permanent freestanding signs just because of visual impediments. Having said that, though, I can see having freestanding signs during a construction period. So the contractor and contact information is available. That wouldn't be permanent. It would just be during the construction phase. I don't know about our branding or our logo, if we were really cemented on what our logo was. I would want that to be part of the sign, but hotspot or the wave crest or whatever we've got now, I think it's kind of up in the air with people on what we are. So that might have to be a later addition to signage. So if there was some room for that in the signage, that would be good. That's about all I have to say. I'll take staff's advice. I think we've got some good expertise that can direct us in the right way. All right, right?
Thank you. I guess it's my turn. I appreciate the photos that were included in the presentation and the examples.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the fascia signage examples in particular, and I noticed that like a number of them don't have the city or municipal logo on them. It's very simple. And I kind of like that personally, the simplicity of it, which made me think, well, I would think that logo, the branding may come out of OCP, but do we wait that long to get signs on our new public works, our new village? Like maybe we go with a very basic sign that's not complicated. Could go up right away. I don't throwing it out there as a thought because I really like the simplicity. I know there was a question about name, like what goes. Personally, I like Village of Lytton. That is our name, Village. Lytton to me is the whole area community, which is good. But if we're talking municipal buildings, these belong to the municipality. Village of Lytton makes sense to me. Yeah, lots of people have said really good things here and made great observation. I think it's important that we get signs on our buildings as soon as we can, personally. I agree about the freestanding signs that said not big on those. And yeah, I think redoing the bylaw makes total sense. Updating the signage bylaw makes total sense to include all of them.
I was just going to say, I think it's typical with municipal signage that the identification of a building is just a standard sign, and where the branding comes in is more of those elements that might interact, like parks or recreation facilities, or that's where you might actually bring some of the branding. But it's quite typical to just have them on a building.
So things like the parks as they have a good time for getting the signage.
Or you can get a pocket park sign and leave as Councilor Lightfoot suggested, area for the insertion of a local label or branding of something.
Right. Yeah.
That was part of what I was thinking. Part of me hates standardization, and I like the opportunity to show that you're just a little tiny bit different. So for each building, I thought I was kind of running this through my head. So the signage will all much be the same because you kind of want it to be the same. But at the same time, you want building to have sort of unique individual kind of look about it. So I don't know if there's any room in there for that or not, but that would be nice, not necessary, right? If there's some way that building kind of has its own something on it. But if you're just putting words on a sign like that makes sense. Similar, very, very similar. Yeah, be consistent.
Councillor Toss.
Thank you. Back to, I know this is around municipal signs, but I think it's come up about like the business signs a little bit. And I do have concerns about a new sign bylaw further deterring development. Because if you're going to be talking about, you can only have a 3 meter by 1 meter sign and it's going to be recessed by this, not the, and I get it, safety on the corner. But again, like the parking bylaw, with every, public variance, why put it in it? And I don't think that signage is really something we want to put staff time into, to be honest, as far as a bylaw goes right now. This discussion around municipal signage makes sense, but to develop a whole bunch more rules at the point when really we should be focusing on getting to the village, not deterring them more regulation. Thank you.
Councillor Lightfoot.
I'll just,
Jump
I
right in.
I have a different opinion.
Yeah.
I think developers would appreciate knowing what the parameters are, what the expectations are, and it would be reflective of safety standards that we think are important to maintain within the village. So, you know, if it's a projecting sign or a fascia sign, I mean, the sign, the size is one thing, but especially for the projecting signs, we want to make sure that there is enough information there to make sure that it has walking public underneath the sign. So I disagree. We don't want to be punitive in our bylaws, but I think providing clarity for developers gives them a firm idea of what to talk.
I have to apologize if I made it sound like I was thinking that the signage bylaw is a priority to get done right now. I think we heard here that the report that it
That would be
so
great.
that's more what I was. where I was
Seems so
going with that.
organic.
Yeah. Anybody else with any questions, thoughts?
Just crossed
Councillor
my
Thomas?
mind. I love
Yeah.
our washroom sign and the washroom location. I don't know that people realize they're public coming off the highway. So even like a public bathroom ahead little sign in a stopgap kind of measure as you're coming down the hill prepares people. I think that it's been so lovely watching people out there. So, and I don't know that people like know it's public yet. So it would be nice. I'm looking forward to some more
There
inviting
used to be
signage.
a sign on the highway, both ends, there and there, that had the list of
Amenities.
amenities. And that's a wayfaring sign, and that's through highways. And so if we start popping up on signs, I'm pretty sure we're gonna bump back.
So that's.
But that would be something to ask please about, is to get place, because it's been 4 years.
Maybe they're down that apply to businesses that have been closed for years.
Yeah,
And instead we could put up the relevant currents.
yeah,
Yeah.
to start at least moving in that direction.
Hey, Councillor Thomas?
When we do enter the sign bylaw stage, I wonder that, to your point, CAO member Cat, that businesses that no longer exist take their signs down. I know we have. That's confusing on the highway as well.
Oh, yeah, it's high.
So that's kind of a different conversation
Exactly,
than
but
this.
it's,
Yeah.
to put it on the radar in any event,
Yeah.
when that. Thank you. Yeah.
Anything else around this report? Topic. This is, I think this is an exciting piece of the sort of the rebuild of these buildings and our municipal infrastructure. So we, Councillor Lightfoot, yeah, no, go ahead.
Actually, I think as time goes on, I mean, I don't see this happening maybe till a year from now, I don't know. But once we do have our logo, it's important that every village building or amenity has a sticker or decal on it or whatever, so that people can easily identify that as a village. So if they have an issue, if they have or whatever.
So we have there is a recommended motion that forward this report to
Also move.
thank you, Councillor Cost, seconder.
Sure.
Councillor McCann, are there any further comments or thoughts around this?
Thank you.
Passes, will it be coming back to us?
Just
Lightfoot.
thanking staff for the work.
Yeah.
It has something to think about.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you. So we're going to move on to the next topic on our agenda here. I didn't,
You just gotta close the chat open.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I can do it right here. Go. Yeah. All right, so we move on to item number 2, which is housing discussion, and we do also have a presentation.
Well, I didn't actually prepare a
Oh,
presentation in Maribor. I did write a report and to give a couple of overview comments, assuming that everybody's had a chance to read the report. And I just wanted to kind of what was trying to happen here. So, you know, I think we've had many discussions about two things that ties into this. And one of them is the village's future financial stability is one question that we have had many discussions about. And another one is around the lack of housing, affordable and other, for people coming to, whether they're are retired, whether they're essential workers, or whether they're workers at the village Clinton, or for future business. So what we've been looking at is, are there ways for the village to either using our own resources, working in partnership with others, or on the development of housing, and its potential that they could provide the revenue stream for the village, positive. And so I just outlined a number of different options, and I'm not trying to purport that this is a complete list. This is for discussion, development, and I welcome ideas on this. So I kind of laid it out that we're starting to look for what the property that the village owns, and as we know, the village owns a couple of properties around town, and then a number of small slivers of land that are left over from road ends and other things that aren't particularly useful from a development perspective. But there are two properties that could like to be developed, and one of them is at 5 Street, the fire hall, and the other one is directly across the street from that, which is called 455 Fraser Street, and it's not very big, it's a sliver, but it is 100 feet long, so that you could develop something long and narrow potentially on that lot.
I think two of them. Carolyn said possibly potentially up to 2 times would actually fit on
455.
Carolyn, was
Sure.
that not what you said?
I haven't really looked at what configuration we do on any of them.
No.
Yeah.
Well, you said long and skinny, and I just want to clarify. Carolyn, did you tell me that you'd done the dimensions for that and that 2 were possible, 2 dwellings?
I think you'd have to look at it, yes. It depends on the building code, on building separation, and then we'd also have to look at access and parking and things like that, but certainly a very high level.
So,
Good,
okay.
and it depending on what you put on it, so.
So there's some options.
But
there.
it's an
Yeah.
option.
Yeah.
And so
I am listening. I'm going to get more.
And so, those are really the two lots that we have available for this type of discussion. The other lots that we own, there's already planned by the community hub of the village. And that's pretty much it for our land holdings. We know that we need both short-term and long-term housing. The short-term need, for the most part, here's the contract. Kind of works some things out. They're staying in trailers, they're staying in people's basement apartments. They have for the most part, I think, been able to do the work, what the main thing is. As we move into something like the construction of the hub, that might be a little bit more difficult because it's a larger project than really anything else that's been undertaken. And we'll likely have a larger staff to work on. So, but then looking at the long term, I mean, from what I understand, it's been a problem forever. Housing, there was housing issues before the fire, and that's of course even much more challenging now with a very limited number of houses built and not a lot of suites or secondary homes or other things available for employees. So, you look at the kind of the possibilities, there is the opportunity for the village to look at doing something on our lots at 500 and 455 Fraser Street. And one of the things that I had, kind of suggested in here, you can look at it a couple different ways. You could build something and rent it out, or you could build something and make it available to your employee as part of their compensation, which then lowers your expenses. So either way, there is money coming into the village for that property and augment our regular operating budget in the future. I just included a couple of sketches there just as an interest, like this is the type of thing that we could maybe do, not making any suggestion that that's going to do, just as an example. Potentially we could purchase an existing property that is for sale, and I was reminded there's actually 2 completed properties for sale right now in the village. And potentially we could look at buying a property that's already built. Saves us on all the things around archaeology and development and all that type of stuff, and could be made available either to rent out or employee accommodation. We could look at, whether or not we can work with a nonprofit housing society. We've many more about Yellow Community Service. They've done a lot of work in the area, and we've had some discussions with them. Their model is really the land gets donated to them. They work with thing to develop the actual housing itself, and then operate it into. So it would really be that model. That approach would mean we've contributed to the development of housing, but we would have no involvement in the future in that. Potentially we could look at Assumption Enterprise. They own a number in the village. Is there an opportunity to them? And as we're doing the OCP and all of the, work on the bylaws and whatnot into the future, just looking to continue to change those. You may remember a year or two ago to allow for the secondary dwelling on the lot, whether it's a duplex or a carriage house or whatever you want to call the various forms. We haven't had a lot of take up on that. That was just to try to make it easier for people to provide more housing. So any more changes like that can be made, continuing to do that analysis and try.
But not a potential, can we? The secondary states were, there was a Bill 44 that costs now.
We're exempt from a lot of those housing.
Well, it's Bill 44,
changes that
it's
have
a
been made.
provincial act, I guess, or legislation that any R1 property. I'm not sure if it's suite or carriage house detached, but in any event, it's beyond our control. It's provincial.
And then, just kind of rounded out the report with just a little bit of discussion around financial. There's, until you kind of decide which way you want to go, it's tough to do a financial, but just at a very high level, we could potentially look at some of our government partners to see if we could use some of the funding that's been made available to us in order to develop or purchase property, and then that
Or both.
benefit from the revenue in the future. We could, there would be some work on taxes because once it becomes municipally owned, there's no longer property taxes. I have to get to the bottom of whether or not we still be responsible for the taxes to others. But there would be a lost taxes to us. But if you look at the net amount that we could achieve here, we're far. So I don't think that would be. And for the properties that we already own, we don't collect tax. So there'd be no change in that regard. How much the house would cost us on a yearly basis, that depends a lot. If it's a brand new building, probably less maintenance costs than all that currently exists. The specifics of the lease, who pays for what, all that would need to be taken into account to try to figure that out. So that would have to be something that we would look closer at the time. And then, in terms of, do we borrow the money to build it and then pay off the mortgage for the rent? I'm sure we can do all, but we wouldn't need, because we already have the capital. So it wouldn't make sense to incur the interest when we have. So, like I said, just a very brief summary on the financial side, because until you know what you're going to do, it's pretty difficult to do it any kind of analysis. So those are kind of just my overall comments on it. Welcome some discussion.
Yeah, so there is a multi discussion to have staff their report recommendation. Staff now thoughts or ideas on pretty high level of what could be included in the report, I guess, and recommendations as they bring it back to council. Yeah, so I'd like to do a similar thing. We'll go around the table, but we'll start on this side.
Okay, I guess I have two points. One, I get this is just my current position. That position changed this clarify,
Flexible
right?
thinker, yeah.
I still have concern on the long term, time required to manage properties if the village does buy properties. You know, at this stage, it's okay, but as time goes on, our staff, it's just one more task, probably an already overburdened staff team. I could be wrong. My other thing is, the other side of it though is the timeline. We're talking about identifying the need for housing surrounding the two projects that are online and here. So if that, what's motivating us to house more, and we're talking about outside purchasing a property may be the best way to go. Ideally, in my mind, it would be viewed as an investment that will be transferred once the construction period's over. But as this council, we have no control. But I wouldn't want to live on long term. I could see in the interim using it for housing and then liquidating that asset, putting the resources back. Just my preference. Like I said, my position can change.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. To Councillor Lightfoot, while I do agree that we're not in the land for sort of cross that threshold, our office, our commitment to outfitting shelves within the hub, and our caretaking. So I think we're sort of going to be having some sort of system. And I think probably for our staff capacity is housing. So it is kind of a catch-22. I do not see these as rentals, maybe in the future and that, but I there's such a demand for housing that rented out to just down the street. It's not going to happen. I think so we're still and yes, that really lifeguards, water treatment operators, corporate officers, CAO. And so and then to your
Who
point
could
also
buy their own house? Who could build their own?
potentially the cost of building, however, unfortunately, we would never be able to build a home or what some of these homes that are in town be offered for. The cost of building is prohibitive in that respect. And then, of course, as a bureaucracy, as an organization like ourselves, there's so many hoops that we would have to go through. I think it's a shame. I wonder if we can lobby to Pacifican to include rentals. And, you know, we haven't had any support for rentals, which I think part of our problem. I think that if
We're
Yellowhead
talking rental construction, right?
is to get rental, to more housing in the
Yeah,
village, right?
But for Pacifican, it's about construction,
Correct.
not about current.
Yeah, exactly. But we have a crisis in
Yep.
housing
Yeah.
that could maybe. So, yeah. So as far as you know, to me, the purchasing of a ready-made property that somebody could be living in next month has so many positive repercussions. What's the word? Advantages. Thank you. And I cannot see us losing in terms of an asset for the village. And my experience in real estate is that it is probably the biggest money maker for any. It's indisputed. And right now we're in a lull, but it does come around, and we are in a housing crisis. So I can't see us losing money. My last comment is it's you know, with some of the purchasing options, one of them is the lot situation where one created or used for another purpose. So there's economic development potential there, as well as park.
I have to apologize. I'm not sure we have the system hooked up as normal. I'm not sure what else we can do about sound.
Oh, I didn't. see that.
Everything seems to be working at our end. So I just have to apologize.
We've had a lot of technical issues lately.
Yeah, all I can do is apologize.
It shows full
We'll,
bars on the
we'll
Wi-Fi.
try to, does it make a difference if we turn our head away versus? So
No.
maybe if we're looking at the speaker, it's.
I was probably looking at Jesua the
Yeah.
whole time I was speaking.
Yeah.
I do find if you are moving a bit more that you do go in and out a bit. So if you're moving around, it does. And you need to speak a little bit louder. That's what I'm finding.
Thank you.
Could we turn it off and back on again and see if that makes it?
That's a point of privilege. Raise your hand at any time and say point of privilege. That means you can't hear. So that's actually important to do if you're online so that we know.
Here, yeah.
It does seem good right now, but again, it does kind of cut in and out.
Okay, we will do our best. All right, Councillor Michelle. Oh, didn't go around. Diane, were you in the circle too? No, okay. Councillor Michelle.
I'm for having property for employees and staff, but I don't know. I mean, like losing the tax revenue isn't that big of a deal when you're bringing in a rental income. So I think I would rather just wait until we had all this information and vote in favor of getting the staff to prepare some kind of report for us with a projection, with costs, estimates, etc.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McCann?
I wondered if there was a way to do not just one or two options, but that there might be several things out of this list that we might want to do at the same time. So with developing a report, for me, what would be really helpful is, okay, so a timeline that says, all right, if you want something right away, here's your best options, really buy property that's already developed. And then look at what those options would look like and compare and contrast. And then for a little further down and say, what would that directly appeal to? So to your point, we need these things. So say what it is we need. Do we need a home for a CAO? Do we need this? Do we need temporary? Do we need something to incentivize? So really, like you've implied in your report, Diane, some of those things that are affecting these decisions and why this is even here is because that's something that's come up. And it's come up for the last 3 years repeatedly, and it hasn't been addressed yet. So to me, there's a sense of urgency to this, that we've been kind of hanging in here and not really doing anything. And the problem is still there and it still needs to be addressed. So to me, we have kind of a priority sort of thing, but I don't think one thing is the answer here. I think we need to look at several of the options that you've suggested. And even if there might, like you said, there may be others that could be considered that would also help address these issues. So from the village's point of view, for a staffing point of view, could we kind of have something in the report that's really clear about who is always going to be a distance employee, who would potentially need to be a site person, what are the kinds of things that we're absolutely have to have accommodation for? Is it something where they're going to pay it themselves? Is it something we're going to offer it as incentive? What are the pros and cons of each of those? The village is the landowner, that everybody kind of has. We're all nervous about that and would like to see it a short-term thing and get it somebody else's problem to deal with. But it's a reality, like you say, Councillor Toss, it's a reality. It's a situation we're in now. It's not going to go away soon. So we're going to have to be prepared to deal with that for some time. And how are we going to prepare? So those are kind of the things that pop up for me.
No, appreciate that. Thank you. I apologize if I was smiling. It was more banging at the table.
Sorry.
No,
on my hands.
So I read the report and put a lot of thought into this. middle of the night. You know, we have a pretty healthy funding source to provide housing. I am not one that's for, I don't believe village should be landlord. Like I don't, that's not my rifle. Saying that, and I worry about buying, purchasing an already, you know, a home. There are a couple for sale, as you mentioned. You know, I'd be really, really careful with what it is we're purchasing because of the ongoing cost. I'm kind of leaning toward developing the 2 lots that we have. I look at the Mennonite Disaster Services who built in 9 weeks.
Yeah.
Look at the Public Works building. To me, it was pretty quick to get it up and finished. Those are modular.
Mhm.
So I think it's possible to build something that would be brand new that could attract somebody to come and work here. And I know we talk about building, leasing, or renting, but I don't think we've ever talked about like a lease to buy. Maybe
Yeah.
that's not right to have an employee come and say, here it is, you know, you're putting money into equity for yourself, right? Yeah, those are my main thoughts around. That's what I like. But
Well, just as I heard all, you know, subsequent comment, made my initial remarks, I was thinking, so there's the immediate need, probably in the next year, but then those properties, if they could come together quickly, that would be my preference. I'm not sure if the Mennonite group would help the villagers more into individuals.
I'm not saying the Mennonites do it. I'm just saying
Yes.
they did it. Why couldn't
It
somebody
can be
else?
done. It
Yeah,
can be
But
done.
it is a good model, and those are properties that we need to make use of.
Yeah.
Not just maintain weeds, right?
Yeah.
So it's an asset we already have that we could improve upon. And I think whoever lives on or 500 Fraser Street, excellent view. I mean, that might be the attraction, is from here to work.
But the other thing that was noted in the report is, you know, and very preliminary, but someone who's already under saying modular homes to come to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, try to find that and kind of tag on somewhere where it's already happening in terms of timeline, you know, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Potential there.
You have.
Oh, and I'm just wondering, if we do build, do we qualify to make them net zero? And
Just why not? We do
Because
on
I
the
look at-
commercial side.
I look at the first house that Mennonites built, and their hydro bill is like in the negative at this point. And so as we go into the future, it would
Yes.
be a much less expensive model to maintain.
So
than
you're
some of
saying
the older
recommendation
ones.
would be to look into whether we
Yeah.
qualify for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. This is a great conversation. I agree. Developing the 2 lots, having a brand new dwelling for, especially to attract qualified employees as we go, you know, forward in the post recovery years. But I'm thinking of immediate need, like in the next 6 months need. And I'm confident in my experience that if we were to purchase a property at costs that are being offered these days, although buyer's market, I'm confident that those costs will be recovered within a year or 6 months or whatever that would be. And your point, and things happening, I think that it's possible to be working on those. And I've personally been looking into those sort of drag and drop modular options. And there is a plethora of different drag and drop, put it in place, already approved options. And the reason I'm so in favor of purchasing rather than leasing or renting in the short term, because I know we have other options for short-term rentals for staffing in the next 6 months, let's say, when finish. If you're looking at $2,300 a month, 12 months, you're looking at about $27,000 a year that we never see. If you put that into your own dwelling, where it's offset, that's money that's our equity. That's money that we're paying ourselves essentially. So from a purely financial position, it we need to be paying ourselves, to be working on ourselves. And the particular properties that I don't know that intimately, but the one I don't have particular concerns on ongoing maintenance. Like, and also I have a concern about
I guess that
immediate-
would come with a report. Sure. I would do, right? Bring that information.
as we are all aware though, sellers all not something that can grind through.
Yeah, we
this
have to be
process.
careful talking about.
Absolutely do.
Absolutely.
However, there is a very
Sorry, Councillor Toss, you are canceling out again. I'm not quite sure. I didn't catch what you just said.
I heard that it was a time sensitive conversation and that the cost of renting, say for 2,300 a month, would be about 27,000 a year. So that those numbers would be that money's gone forever. If we invested in a home and did not pay that rent, that's essentially building our own equity. However we look at it, and it's asset to the village.
Any other comments, thoughts?
Does that give you something to?
Yeah.
Report?
Does that?
The one
provide
thing I
enough?
did want to highlight was appreciating the comment about partnership with the Crumsheen Enterprises, and I wouldn't want to see that drop from the table. I'd want that. I think that's a really viable thing for sure. As we're doing things, concurrently, we might as well see if we can get something moving there. Right? The people that bought a number of lots,
Okay, that's like elephant debt.
I believe, something like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all of those options, right?
Well, I'm probably out of order, but the big elephant in the room is we need a grocery store.
Works housing. Housing.
Word.
Yeah, it's on topic. So, yeah, you know, we look forward to a report coming back.
Maybe Melissa has more comment.
Come on, Melissa.
So that, I don't think we put the motion forward, the recommended motion forward yet.
No, I'll also move.
To have a report come back to us at regular council meeting. Councillor McCann, a seconder. Councillor Toss. So if there are no further comments, ideas, questions, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Carried. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our committee of the whole meeting. And I want to thank staff for putting this together, and I believe this is hopefully going to be the first of a number of committee of the whole meetings. So we look forward to others with other topics. Councillor Lightfoot, did you have a?
I just want to say that first, I'd like staff to consider a time change for this. But I can accommodate whatever, but I think 10 o'clock in the morning would be good for some people to attend. I'm not sure, Councillor Michelle, if that would make the work day easier or harder.
Lunch would be the best for me.
Yeah, working. So we can have staff or maybe reach out to council to see if there's any.
I thought we said survey.
You did, didn't you?
Oh, you did send a survey.
Yes.
Okay.
I had this moment during the weekend when everything else was going on. I went,
It was a busy week.
Lisa sent a survey.
Oh, that's
I
great.
said, I have to go back and find that.
I did read it.
Sorry, Lisa.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah. So we will have a motion to adjourn the meeting, please. Councillor Lightfoot and a seconder. Sure. McCann, all those in favor? Aye, carried, and that returns us back to the special meeting. So we require a motion to adjourn the special meeting.
I'll sum that.
Councillor McCann and Assessor Lightfoot. Now, all those in favor, carried, and that is the end of our meeting.
Can I just ask Councillor Michelle to stay on for 1 minute? I just wanted to give council an update.
Okay,
So everyone else.
so thank you everyone for attending and yes,
Thank
thank you to
you.
staff.
Lisa and Carolyn.
Thanks, guys.
And Carolyn, I'll get in touch with you about our trailer park stuff.